Thank you, Nina Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Tonight, COMELEC announces possible Senate proclamation by Saturday pending crucial election result transmissions from today's date.
Baka itong Sabado hanggang Linggo, sana makapagproklama na tayo ng Senado kasi ang bilis naman eh. Kita niyo po, 98.9% na nga eh.
And President Trump claims a total reset in the U.S.-China trade war after weekend negotiations. And the news starts now. Allies of Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. look set to win at least half of the available Senate seats in a midterm election on Monday, with only one of his slate in the top six in a contest seen as a referendum on his leadership and a fierce proxy battle with his estranged vice president. Although 18,000 positions, including mayors, governors, and lawmakers, were up for grabs, attention was firmly on the race for the influential Senate, with a bitter row between Marcos and his popular Vice President, Sara Duterte, dominating an election that could reshape the balance of power in the country of 110 million. With most votes counted in the unofficial tally, President Marcos's allies were on course for half of the 12 available seats in the 24-member Senate, likely guaranteeing support for his policy agenda after the dramatic collapse of his once formidable alliance with Duterte, the daughter of former leader Rodrigo Duterte. Now, analysts are saying a Marcos-friendly Senate would not only secure passage of key legislation and backing for his pro-U.S. foreign policy, it could give him sway in deciding the political fate of his adversary Duterte, a likely 2028 presidential contender with Marcos limited to a single term. What began as a united front between two powerful families that swept the 2022 election unraveled last year into an acrimonious feud marked by a torrent of personal accusations and a bid to impeach Duterte on allegations she misused funds, amassed unexplained wealth, and threatened to assassinate Marcos, the First Lady, and the House Speaker. She denies any wrongdoing. The Senate contest was critical, with its members to become jurors if an impeachment trial goes ahead, where Duterte faces removal from office and a lifetime ban if convicted. The 2025 Philippine midterm elections have unfolded against a backdrop of evolving political alliances, most notably the dynamic between President Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte. To help us make sense of the results and their implications, we have with us today Dr. Lucio Pitlo Blanco III, President of the Philippine Association for Chinese Studies, Research Fellow at Asia Pacific Pathways to Progress, and of course, a seasoned political analyst. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for the kind invitation, ma'am.
All right. Sir, this election felt like a bit of a showdown between President Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte. These political dynasties are still a huge force here in the country. How much did that really matter, do you think, in this election? And what does this Senate race tell us about the bigger picture, like the alliances, power struggles between these two political camps? Can you give us your take on how it influenced the way people voted?
Sure. So certainly we see the political dynasties, the families, they continue to be a key feature of Philippine elections, and this 2025 midterm elections is no different. And of course, recent developments in relation to the feud between the two powerful political clans, the Marcoses and the Dutertes. We have seen the results from the local to the Senate level, showdown between these two camps, between the candidates that both sides have endorsed. And we see this very manifested in the Senate, where we have 12 members joining the new upper house composition, and half-half. So we see both camps having about 5 candidates endorsed by both camps. And then we have 2 independent aspirants joining the new Senate that would be convened soon. And as we all know, there are two critical points here. One is the coming impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte,
Yes.
and then, of course, the question about the legislative support, especially the Senate support for the agenda of the administration in the remaining 3 years of its term in office.
We're also seeing a scenario where the Senate is somewhat divided, with neither the Marcos nor Duterte allies holding a decisive majority. In this half and half, right, situation, what are the most, do you think, significant consequences for the country's political stability given this divided Senate? How might this affect legislative process? Are we likely to see gridlock, or will it force more compromise, coalition building maybe?
Yeah, so there is the concern about the potential for a deepening of polarization, most notably the Senate. And as noted, by June, there would be an impeachment process of Vice President Sara Duterte, and it would boil down to numbers, right? So 16 votes are needed to convict Sara Duterte, and if that happens, her chances for running for higher office going forward will be affected. This means that of course, VP Sara is seen as a strong contender for the 2028 presidential derby. And if she would be convicted, then those would go down the drain. But at the same time, we also see only 8 votes are necessary to acquit her. And looking at the numbers based on the results of the 2025 midterm polls, 8 is very doable. So we already see 5 candidates endorsed by VP Sara winning seats in the coming upper house session. And then, of course, there are already existing allies of the Dutertes presently in the Senate. And so it's quite possible that the required 8 votes to acquit her and thereby preserve her chance to run for 2028 is within the likelihood, the realm of possibility. And so it would be somehow up to, independent candidates that, as well as those on the swing block. Their critical involvement would decide, whether the necessary votes will either acquit or go for the conviction of Vice President Sara. And as we all know, that process in itself is, again, a divisive process. It would likely entail protests from either camp, unhappy or happy with that, with the outcome of that process. And so the composition of the Senate will be very critical. Their decision on this matter also will be very important.
Contradictory situation. How does his legal status at the ICC affect his ability to wield political influence in the Philippines? And what does former President Duterte continued political popularity, as demonstrated by his victory, say about the level of support, for the Duterte political dynasty? How does this factor into the broader political landscape for the Philippines?
So the Dutertes had shown in this election that they remain a force to reckon with in Philippine domestic politics. We have seen not only the landslide victory at that of former President Duterte, even though he was not there physically to campaign because of him being transferred and is now in trial, undergoing trial in The Hague. And his son, Baste, the current mayor, will be the vice mayor, and most likely, in the physical absence of his father, he will be taking the place as a city mayor. And Rodrigo's other son, Colong, is the Davao City the first district representative, if I'm not mistaken, and the second district representative is the son of Colong. And so I think all 5 Dutertes who run for posts this election won. And we have also seen the VP Sara endorsing candidates, even though she went into active campaign mode late in the game. She was still able to get the 5 people winning seats, and very convincing wins, So top three posts were, of course, I think top six also were from the PDP Laban, or those of strongly allied with the Duterte clan. And so it shows that they continue to have strong appeal, especially in Mindanao and the Visayas. And we have seen the backlash on leaders who have been critical of the Dutertes, and those who the public viewed as being, balimbing or star-proof. They're changing allegiances, shifting political loyalties. I mean, absent no political loyalties, and then they just simply shed their color depending on whether it's convenient or not. And so the voters have showed their displeasure against this kind of behavior. Well, we have seen that at the local level, as well as at the congressional level, and even in the Senate. And so the Dutertes remain a force for Philippine elections. And if Sara would be acquitted by the new Senate, then her chances to run for 2028 will be very strong. And that means that the remaining 3 years of the current Marcos administration will be quite a challenge. Mustering the necessary numbers at the Senate to support priority agendas of the administration. That won't be smooth sailing. And of course, the legislative executive dialogue to iron out our priority measures. There would be some tense discussion between these two co-equal branches of government. And so it would be harder for the current Marcos administration to ensure that its legacy will be sustained. But that also means that the building of coalitions, I think, will start early. And some say the lame duck presidency phenomenon may start early, and that the realignment of political allegiances or loyalties, we may be able to see them in the coming months, especially after the results of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Now, finally, sir, I know you're a very busy man. Many interviews waiting for you. But finally, many view these elections as a kind of grade for the current administration. However, with only Erwin Tulfo from President Marcos' slate in the top 6 compared to 3 pro-Duterte candidates, namely Bongo, Bato de la Rosa, and Congressman Rodante Marcoleta. And considering the president's declining poll numbers, would you say that the administration is coming out of this election stronger, or is the opposition gaining momentum?
I think the opposition clearly won this election. I mean, they got the upper hand in terms of the contest, especially between the Marcos and the Duterte camps. We have seen the endorsements of by VP Sara making the big difference between, especially for, incoming senators, Camille Villar, and re-electionist Amy Marcos, the presidential sister. So it came at a critical juncture, at the point where we saw the gridlock, especially on positions 10 to 12 and maybe 10 to 15, right? And so it made a big difference. And I think that debt of gratitude, and at the same time, the potential realignment of, allegiances and coalitions that would have to be built, in order to, to look at the 2028, with that thing in mind. I think it would start. And so the administration currently will be put on the defensive. And as I said earlier, in terms of priority measures for the remaining 3 years, there would be some intense discussions, and it might be difficult for them to get everyone on board, especially in the Senate. So I think that there needs to be more determination on the part of the government to, to sustain, coalition building if it wants to preserve its legacy, and at the immediate term, get the necessary numbers to pass critical legislations that it needs, to have to ensure that its priority agendas will be completed before Marcos Jr. steps down from office in 2028.
Thank you very much, sir, for your take on this, your insights, as always. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you, and more power to your program.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, the COMELEC announced the possible proclamation of winning senators as early as Saturday, May 17th, and this hinges on the completion of election result transmissions by tomorrow, May 13th. COMELEC Chair George Garcia confirms the proclamation will take place at the Manila Hotel, Tent City.
At the same time, ngayon, inaasahan natin provincial canvas na. Makakapagproklama na ngayon ng mga governor. So, siguro naman po, sa tulong at awa ng Diyos, baka itong Sabado hanggang Linggo, sana makapagproklama na tayo ng Senado. Kasi ang bilis naman eh. Kita nyo po, 98.9% na nga eh. Yung ating punaan dyan, kapiraso na lang yung kulang. Kahit nga siguro wala yung kulang, basta maipadala sa amin yung National Board. Perhaps, baka wala ng effect yung natitirang result eh. Halimbawa. Pero siyempre kailangan ang COMELEC 100% ang canvas. Wala dapat isa man na COC ang maiiwan sa pag nagka-canvas ang COMELEC.
The Filipino diaspora plays a crucial role in the national elections. To get a sense of how that played out in Thailand, we go now to our correspondent Crystal Mapa, who is in Bangkok. Crystal.
Yes, Alma, the overseas voting period for the 2025 Philippine national elections in Thailand officially concluded yesterday, May 12, 2025 at 6 o'clock p.m. Bangkok time, 7 o'clock p.m. Manila time. A total of 2,609 registered Filipino voters in Thailand exercised their right to vote, representing 31.81% of the total registered overseas voters in the country. The Philippine Embassy in Bangkok successfully transmitted the election results to the Commission on Elections (COMELEC) electronically at 9:49 p.m. Bangkok time, 10:49 p.m. Manila time. In a move to ensure transparency, the embassy also publicly posted the overseas voting election results at the embassy premises. The Philippine Embassy in Bangkok expressed its appreciation to the overseas Filipino community in Thailand for what it called a successful implementation of the first online overseas voting in the country. The embassy also extended its gratitude to the poll watchers, acknowledging their crucial role in upholding the integrity of the electoral process. Here are the top-ranking senatorial candidates based on the results from Thailand. Go Bong, De La Rosa Bato, Marcoleta Rodante, Bondok Jimmy, Rodriguez Vic, Lapid Lito, Aquino Bam, Hinlo JV, Pangilinan Kiko, Mata Doc Marites, Salvador Philip, and Mendoza Heidi. As the 2025 elections conclude, the Philippine Embassy in Bangkok urges Filipinos to unite and work together to shape the future of the nation. Reporting from Bangkok, Thailand, this is Crystal Mapa. Back to you, Alma.
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. Wala pa si Sir. In a moment that brought tears of relief around the world, 21-year-old Eden Alexander, captured by Hamas during the October 7, 2023 attack, has finally come home after 584 days in captivity. Take a look. The scene, an emotional reunion after days of captivity. Eden's mother embracing him, telling him she loves him. Eden Alexander, the last known living American hostage, is finally back with his family. Meanwhile, in his hometown in New Jersey, a watch party erupted in cheers at the news of the dual U.S.-Israeli citizens' release. The deal that secured his freedom between the Trump administration and Hamas. Hamas is still holding at least 20 living hostages. President Trump spoke today about the possibility of more hostage releases.
So it's 20. So they have 20 live hostages there. The rest are dead bodies.
Hamas stated they released Alexander as a goodwill gesture to President Trump, who's visiting the region this week. However, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said there would be no ceasefire and that plans to intensify military action in Gaza continue.
This is a very emotional moment. Eden Alexander has returned home. We embrace him and his family. This was achieved thanks to our military pressure and the diplomatic pressure exerted by President Trump. This combination is a winning formula. I spoke today with President Trump. He told me, I am committed to Israel. I am committed to continuing to work in close coordination with you to achieve all our war objectives, to release all the hostages, and to defeat Hamas. These goals go hand in hand. They are interconnected.
And major developments on the trade front tonight. The U.S. and China have agreed to de-escalate their trade war, announcing a pause in tariff increases. This agreement means the two sides will continue negotiations for a 90-day period, aiming for a permanent resolution. In the interim, the U.S. will significantly reduce tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% to 30%. China will also lower its tariffs on American products from 125% to 10%.
President Trump wants to rebalance the American economy back to a manufacturing economy with high precision manufacturing. I think everyone agrees, including Chinese leadership, that they need to rebalance towards more of a consumption and consumer economy.
The new scent market soaring in Asia. Japan's Nikkei index led the giants, jumping around 1.5% in early trading, with similar increases in Taiwan. Gains were modest in Shanghai and Seoul. Hong Kong stocks, however, saw a 1% decline, having already factored in the news in the previous day's trading. The deal reached after weekend talks in Geneva exceeded market expectations, prompting one analyst to call it a nice big surprise for both the U.S. and China. The announcement weakened support for traditional safe haven investments, with gold prices falling sharply. While these developments are positive, tariffs remain substantially higher than pre-trade war levels, and significant uncertainty remains. Peterson Institute for Economics Executive Vice President Marcus Noland believes the 90-day pause will become permanent, but cautions that challenges remain.
We won't be completely out of the woods. President Trump is talking about putting tariffs on other products, namely pharmaceuticals, which we get a lot from China and India. So that could, if he moved forward with that action, that could once again raise tariffs and also could once again scramble relations with China.
The road to a full trade resolution remains complex, with potential new tariffs looming. A day after the U.S. and China announced their trade agreement, further steps are being taken to solidify the de-escalation. From tariff adjustments to the lifting of restrictions, both sides are moving to implement the terms of the deal. Take a look.
A day after news of the US-China agreement on trade, there were signs of further steps being taken. Speaking in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the agreement had created a mechanism to avoid escalation. He said the US did not want to see a general decoupling of the two countries' economies.
What we want is the US is going to decouple in strategic industries, which we saw during COVID. We had become woefully non-self-sufficient.
The new agreement set a 90-day pause under which most of the levies recently imposed would be drastically reduced. Among concrete steps, Washington said late Monday it would slash the levies imposed on so-called de minimis shipments, low-value packages that used to be duty-free. The US had hiked tariffs on the parcels to 120%, but will now bring them back down to 54%. That's likely to be a boost for online giants like Temu and Shein, which have built their rapid growth on the de minimis provision. However, a minimum flat fee of $100 will remain in place. In a further move, China has removed a ban on its airlines taking delivery of Boeing jets. That's according to Bloomberg News, which says the move follows the trade agreement. There was no comment on the report from Boeing or Beijing. Excitement over the trade deal initially lifted global stocks on Tuesday, but some of the optimism later waned, with equities in Shanghai closing broadly flat. Economists pointed out that the agreement still leaves average tariffs significantly higher than they were before the turmoil began.
In a move aimed at dramatically lowering prescription drug costs, President Trump has signed an executive order with a bold directive.
Whatever the lowest price paid for a drug in other developed countries, that is the price that Americans will pay.
The order signed Monday gives drug makers 30 days to set new price targets. The administration is threatening further action if, quote, significant progress isn't made within 6 months.
Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80 to 90%. Big Pharma will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries.
The order leaves open the possibility of regulatory action or even drug importation if companies don't comply. However, legal experts are already predicting challenges, citing potential conflicts with existing U.S. laws, particularly those governing drug imports. Wall Street also reacted with uncertainty. While drug maker shares initially dipped, they later rebounded, reflecting skepticism about the order's actual implementation. It's worth noting the U.S. pays far more for prescription drugs than other developed nations, sometimes nearly 3 times as much. President Trump's previous efforts to align U.S. prices with those abroad were blocked by the courts. This new order sets the stage for a major showdown with the pharmaceutical industry. An update on Canlaon volcano. PHIVOX has reported a moderate eruption at 2:55 this morning. The eruption produced a grayish plume that reached 3 kilometers into the air, drifting west. Residents in Barangay Pula, Canlaon City, Negros Oriental, and La Castellana, Negros Occidental reported hearing rumbling sounds. Here's more.
So kapag ang bulkan ay biglang naglabas ng gas at iba pang volcanic materials, naglalabas din ito ng napakalakas na energy. So ito ang sanhi ng malakas na ugong o rumbling sound na narinig ng ating mga kababayan. At ito ay narinig sa Barangay Pula ng Canlaon City, which is several kilometers away. Narinig din ito sa may La Castellana City proper. And tumagal ito ng 5 minutes based sa aming seismic and infrasound data. Sa lakas ng pagsabog, nakabuo ito ng abo at ulap, ito tinatawag natin na plume, na umabot ng 4.5 kilometers ang taas mula sa crater ng Canlaon volcano. And nakita rin natin ang pagbagsak ng pyroclastic density current sa southern slope ng bulkan. Ibig sabihin nito, maraming materials gaya ng pinong abo, gas, and volcanic fragments ang binuga ng Canlaon volcano. So sa ngayon, confirm po na may ashfall sa mga barangay ng La Castellana, La Carlota, Bago City, San Carlos City, pati na rin sa may Canlaon City. Pyroclastic density currents, ito yung combination ng gas, volcanic ash, and volcanic debris. And mabilis yung daloy nito. Bumabagsak ito sa dalisdis ng bulkan. And delikado ito dahil it can incinerate everything on its path. Kayang sunugin ang vegetation, makakasira ng mga ari-ariya sa dinadaanan nito, pati na rin sa, pwede rin itong kumitil ang buhay. So sa kaso ng Canlaon volcano, ang PDC ay bumaba sa humigit kumulang 2 kilometers from its crater doon sa southern slope. So kung mag-escalate further yung activity ng vulkan, we may raise the alert level from 3 to 4, and with that, we may also extend the danger zone from 6 kilometers to maybe 10 kilometers.
Breaking news from Italy, where Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, has erupted once again, putting nearby communities on alert. Take a look. Now, for many Tokyo businessmen, the pressure of the 9 to 5 can be intense. But one group has found an unusual antidote: weekend cheerleading. Now, this is the story of the cheerymans, salarymen, who trade their suits for even stretchier ones to flip, shout, and find work-life balance in the most unexpected way. Take a look.
It's an unusual way to find work-life balance after a week of 9 to 5. But for these Tokyo businessmen, cheerleading is the weekend escape of choice. The all-male squad flips, shouts their cheers, and builds human pyramids. Like many of Japan's so-called salarymen, during the week they commute in the city's crowded trains, work late, and go out drinking with colleagues. But come Saturday, they call themselves the cheerymans, a mashup of cheerleader and salaryman. Satoi Mochizuki is co-founder of the group.
We chose to wear suits for our performances because there's this common image in Japan and probably the whole world of the typical salaryman in his suit working day after day as a cog in society, and we thought it would be a good contrast for us to express ourselves through our performances wearing suits and doing what we love with all our might.
The cheerymans volunteer to entertain crowds at shopping malls and other venues. They began in 2023, made up of alumni of the male cheer squad at Tokyo's Waseda University. By day, they work in everything from real estate to marketing. On the weekends, they borrow half of a gym from a conventional female cheer squad in exchange for cookies. Soichiro Kakimoto works at a software company where he says he wears the stretchy Uniqlo suit that doubles as his cheer outfit.
On weekdays I use my brain, and on Saturdays and Sundays I use my body. Even if one isn't well, the other might be, and that's contributing to my overall mental health.
We're all just regular salarymen. In my case, I work for a general trading company, and I usually have to go out drinking after work and do overtime. After that, I head home and have meetings about cheerymans. When I have to go out, I move the meeting to the following day, so you could really say that I'm balancing this with being an everyday salaryman.
Their aerial antics and infectious energy landed them a commercial spot with Uniqlo, advertising the suits they perform in. The group also competed in Britain's Got Talent, where they came third in their semi-final.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.